r slash entitled parents. So, found out my, now ex-boyfriend was cheating on me and gave him a few hours to pack some essentials and leave my house. Not going to lie, I was shattered by this whole thing and my only thought was getting him out and changing my locks. This was the man I thought I was going to marry. He's on more than one occasion tried to talk me into eloping. I'd turned my life upside down time and time again for him and for his family because of that ugly little thing called love. I packed the pups up and went to my parents while he packed. Cue the phone call from his mom. She's sobbing. I'm sobbing. She's telling me how sorry she is, and please can't I forgive him? He has nowhere to go. She said some awful things about him actually, but under it all was that undercurrent of me letting this go because he loves you and I need to take him back and work it out. Yet, he also loves his new little side piece too according to his chats, but I digress. When I don't, but she sobs out that she is too upset to talk. I'm sorry, which one of us got cheated on, and she'll call me back before she hangs up. And then she talks to my mother. Almost word for word repeats it all to her. I don't know if she realized I'm sitting there with her. The only difference is she tries to guilt my mom into talking to me about forgiving him because he has nowhere to go. He's in a hotel. He has to stay in a hotel, he can't afford that. She has to forgive him. When my mother informed her that really isn't any of our concern right now. I'm too upset to talk. I'll call you back. Been over a week. I don't think either of us are getting that call back. So context. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese's when I was 15, and it was my first official job. I am also colorblind. I have protonomy and deuteranomaly. My reds, greens, yellows and oranges can look brown, and I find it difficult to tell the difference between red, blue, and purple shades. Cast, ed equals entitled dad, LK equals little kid, me is not equal to me, BAM equals badass manager. So I'm working the prize counter, the place kids exchange their tickets for prizes, and it's policy that if a little kid walks up to the counter, we give him a little prize to make him feel good, even if he has no tickets. So LK comes up to the counter and hands me a ticket, so I ask him what he wants, and he points to the box of spin tops. I give him a red one and he goes on his way. 30 secs later and Ed storms to the counter and this ensues. Me, hi. How can I? Ed, did you give my son this toy? Me, yes, why? Ed, he wants blue. You gave him red. Give him a new one. Me, oh, I'm sorry, I'm colorblind, I can't tell the difference. Ed, what do you mean you're colorblind? That's not real, call the manager. At this point I'm on the verge of crying, so I radio my manager and he comes to the counter. Bam, what's going on? Ed, your employee is lying to me, and is refusing me and my child service. Bam, oh, do explain? Ed, he claims he's colorblind, which I know isn't true, and is just being lazy and incompetent. Bam, are you insulting my employees? Ed, no, I'm just saying that he is making up a fake illness to get out of doing his job. Bam, sir, you have 10 seconds to get the hell out of my restaurant before I escort you out. He looks like a bouncer BTW, very intimidating. No one insults my employees. Ed, I'll have you know I'm a very important. Bam, I don't give a fuck who you are. Get the hell out, now. Ed scurries out with LK, and my manager ends up buying me a pizza to make up for it. All in all a pretty good day, cause free pizza. I just have to vent. I work in a great office, and I love my co-workers. However, I am one of 5 people in my office. We all have a full caseload. When one of us uses vacation, someone has to pick up our caseload. It's a give and take. During this time of year, it always becomes an issue in the office because everyone wants to take off for the holidays, but at least 2 people need to be in the office to handle hearings. Everyone in my office is older with children. I am the only one who is child-free. Every single year, I end up working the week of Thanksgiving and the weekend between Christmas and New Year's because my co-workers take off those days. And this year I pitched a fit and said I wanted to take that time off and someone could cover my hearings for once instead while I took vacation. The entitled parents of my office told me that they have kids who are home from school and, therefore, they want to be home to see them and babysit since school is out for vacation. And then they point out that I don't have kids and could take a different week off after the holidays if I wanted. I was so enraged. I am so sick of people acting like you need to have kids to take vacation time around the holidays. Why do I always have to defer to the entitled parents in my office and just work around their schedules because they decided to have kids? Then everyone acted like I was the bad guy because I was going to force someone with a child to come in and leave their kid at home over Christmas break. Ugh. This happens every year. Every big holiday. And I am sick of being treated like a heartless person because I would like the opportunity to go and see my family on the holidays and not always have to work just because I didn't pop a kid out my vagina. My mother has always had entitled tendencies. She currently owns a condo and my older sister several states away has bought a new home and offered to let my mother live with them. The last few times my mother tried cohabiting with my older sister for longer than a month, she and my sister got into a big fight and my mother makes a big show of leaving and driving the 12-hour drive back Indiana purposeful dangerous conditions to prove her point. Broken glasses, bad brakes, no sleep to name a few. My mom has had this condo for 13 years on a 20-year mortgage. She wants me to break my lease, move into her condo while she goes to live with my sister. I pay 90% of what she's paying, and she covers the rest. If I live there for 7 years, she will give me the deed. Sound great, right? Wrong. The neighborhood the condo is in is terrible. The condo is almost 50 years old and is not well kept. There is a homeowners association, it's further away from my job on a much busier highway. Oh, and also, there is a high chance my mother and sister will fight. She will storm back and I will either need to scramble for a quick apartment, after breaking a lease, good luck, or worse cohabit with her. I've already called my older sister and told her why I don't want the condo. She gets it and doesn't want me pressured to take this deal. My mother is also Asian if that helps paint the picture. I'm going to tell her no this Thanksgiving but I know she will try hard to guilt and pressure me to say yes. I think she underestimates how much I hate her condo. This is not one story, but rather my experience working around entitled parents for several years while I was in high school. I worked for a company that rented out, among other things, those big bouncy castles. If you or an event rented one, you get one of us with it to run the thing. When we were a private event with only a few kids it was pretty easy, but when it was a large community event there would be lines to use the bounce house and we would have timers to give everyone the same amount of bouncing time. Some things that upset parents. Making their precious kids wait in line. Making their precious kids get out when their time was up. Not letting their kid go in with the 3 kid in front of them because he is half their size. Tried to keep groups to similar size kids unless they knew each other. Asking a kid in the middle of the line if he wanted to go in with current group because he is the only kid in line that is the same age as kids in the bounce house, same as above. Not letting kids doing flips, spoiler, it's not a trampoline and you don't get that much bounce. The worst was when it was getting close to closing down. We would have a sign to put at the end of the line that we were closed and we would get parents trying to sneak their kids into line still or get angry at us. I get that you only just showed up at the very end of this 8-hour event and Johnny wants to play but it's not my problem. Multiple times we have closed, washed out the equipment, deflated it and are rolling it up when parents come over to ask if their kids can have a turn. Sorry Johnny, the mean lady won't let you play. It was a fun job dealing with the kids but some parents really suck. Please keep in mind when you see some kid working at an event that they have been out in the hot sun for hours and we are just trying to do our jobs. And to end on a nice note, my favorite experience of all time, at a community event when all the kids left to go see a special part of it, I don't remember what it was, and some lady and her autistic son, non-verbal, came over and asked if he could go in by himself. I said of course, and there was no one else in line, so he had as long as he wanted. He was so happy to be in there rolling around and looked like he was having a lot of fun. The mother was super nice, not entitled at all. He did somehow lose his socks in there and we never found them, even after cleaning up at the end, so it's not just dryers that eat socks. I used to work in a fabric store cutting fabric by the meter. This often meant that you'd spend a decent amount of time with each customer as you had to cut each length of fabric, fold it, and ring it up. Naturally, as sewing is a common hobby among mothers with young kids, I used to serve a lot of them, and some of them were very, very entitled. The worst experience I had was a lady who had 2 awful children. For context, it was common for little kids mess up the store, and we weren't supposed to say anything unless they were causing permanent damage. Usually you'd just wait for them to leave and hope that you got a free few minutes to tidy up. While I was serving this lady, her kids were climbing inside the shelves and pushing stock off them from behind. The shelf was their cubby house or something, screaming, and otherwise cashing a huge mess. This kind of thing happened now and again, but most parents were pretty good at making their kids stop as soon as they realized. Anyway, I was looking down at this lady's fabric, snipping away, when I suddenly heard her shout stop very sharply. I assumed she was telling the kids off for their behavior and kept going, and she shouted stop again. Man, those kids are brats, I thought as I kept cutting. She yelled. I said stop another time, and I looked up and realized she was talking to me. I told you to stop cutting, she shouted. Apparently she'd changed her mind about how much fabric she wanted and insulted me for not listening to her. She super condescendingly made me start all over again like it was my fault the wrong length was cut. I could have forgiven her for that. Everyone has bad days after all, and I was used to this kind of thing. What I couldn't forgive was her kids literally trashing the store in the background while I recut her fabric. She was fully aware of what they were doing because she kept turning around to check on them, but she said nothing. At one point one of them even shouted, "Hey Mom, look at this." And she said, "Oh yes darling, that's nice." When I was finally done, she stuck her nose up at me and called, "Okay lovelies, time to go," as her kids crawled out of the shelves that were now empty because they had dumped their contents onto the floor. I looked on his disbelief as I realized this lady had treated me worse than she treated her own children. A little respect really wouldn't have gone astray. Be nice to the retail workers who serve you. Entitled people sure don't.